Check, check, check. Wow. How's everybody doing today? All right, yeah. Saturday, Otakufest. Has anybody bought anything super sick or no?
Yeah, dude.
Show it to me. Fire. Yes. How are the signatures this weekend? Did anybody get? Dang. Okay. What'd you get? Oh,
that's Tsushima, bro. It's just fire.
Dang, I didn't even know that he had a Funko. That's so sick.
Man, that's like the bloody one, so it's a little better.
Oh my gosh. Other signatures? What else has everybody been buying? A lot of cool stuff out there? Dang, all right. Dude, all the terrariums? Those things are crazy. Well, today's panels, which was supposed to start at 2 o'clock, what is it like? It's like, what, 2:01? So we're good, right? The art of video game acting, which is, I'm very excited to kind of dive into this because I'm not an actor. I don't know jack about video game acting. But fortunately, we have 3 incredible guests to join us. Samuel, Paul, and Daisuke, please come join us. Oh man,
there's a little bit of energy in the room.
Amazing.
It's on.
Wow, so cool, guys. How's your guys' Saturday been so far?
Fantastic.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's the ghost.
Yeah, I got this hat. So speaking of fun things, and you can get this for $10.
That's a steal.
Yeah, I love it.
Are you a One Piece fan or?
No, not at all.
So
actually, I like.
Okay. I was like, do you know what that is?
But when I was very late, I just did the live action, so I'm not a true fan. I'm not.
Hey, I mean, it's a start. It's a start. Yeah. How's the signings been so far this weekend?
Really great. I think it's so cool that we have this opportunity to meet in person, and it's a little. I don't know. I think it's just so lovely, like to have the energy, positive energy come in your direction. I think we're very lucky to experience that. But I think this is a really nice crowd. I think everybody's really grateful to get out of that sweltering heat. So I think we're a little bit of a sanctuary, in this convention center at the moment. But no, it's been a nice time for me.
Very cool. All right, what is the oddest thing that you've signed this weekend so far?
I have a character who has like a mechanical penguin and someone made like a life-size version of it. I wouldn't say it's odd, but it was cool.
Yeah. Okay. I guess what's the most obscure thing that you've, maybe odd is a, kind of a weird word to say.
I've signed a few ghost masks, which isn't that obscure, but it's really cool. I think someone's gone over there. But somebody came to my table and they were having something signed, and they had a massive head on, like with a beak and it was all furry, and they were just standing there, and I was like, what do you want? What do you want signed? And they were like, the beak. And so I signed the beak of a massive furry head of some kind of reptilian.
That might have been a shinigami, as they say.
Yeah, shinigami. Shinigami. Yeah, I know. I told you that, right? Yeah. So that was quite strange.
Very cool.
But it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What any obscure items?
Nothing weird, but one guy had a scorpion pop. Then he wanted a Ghost of Tsushima quote. That was very confusing, but I guess those are
on the scorpion pop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are my 2 big things, so I guess, sure, why not?
I find the things that people bring you, it's very stressful signing those. I should just like to be honest about that, because you can't there's no redo. These are special items. Sometimes they've been handmade. Like if it's one of my prints, I can scrap those and do it again. So I'm always quite nervous when I'm signing the objects,
But all of our signatures are perfect all of the time.
No question about it.
They're all equally, amazingly perfect.
That's true.
Would you say more people have prints signed, or obviously staple would probably be like a video game or like a Funko Pop, but do you see more signatures go on the prints or more physical items?
A little bit of both.
Really?
I think it's around 50-50 on my table anyway. Yeah.
It's changing now, I think, as you get different characters, certain genres of what you voice,
so many different
lean
ones
into
that
more of that.
could be,
Yeah, like I voice a character in Dragon Ball, so now I'm seeing way more Funko Pops and figures and stuff. But other characters, it's a lot more of the print. So I guess it depends on what you work on.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. Awesome. So this panel is called The Art of Video Game Acting. How cool is that? And we got we got the chance to talk a lot about this yesterday during our panel, which was awesome, to the Call of Duty panel. But obviously, I think there's a lot of different experiences when it comes to just acting. There's a lot of different mediums. I think, when I've worked with voice actors in anime, I've worked with live action actors, but I feel like the attention to video game acting is relatively newish. Like maybe within the last decade or so, these studios have put a lot of work and time into focusing more on developing acting roles and just these characters to have their own, piece of the game. So, with your guys' background, what are some of the nuances that you've seen kind of just going into video game acting compared to maybe voiceover dubbing or just live action acting? Is there any kind of this interesting nuances there?
Yes, one of the fans asked me at the booth the same question, and it's tell me if I'm wrong, but it's a very difficult. I think acting is acting, so it's all kind of same,
Very cool.
but just with different equipment and stuff. Voiceover obviously is just your voice, and in the booth, and you kind of have to imagine who you're speaking to, what the circumstances are, all of that. So all of that is just basic acting. But now you could have, for video games, you could have just a camera on your face, but also in the booth. So you're just doing voiceovers, but they capture face captures, and also the soundstage performance capture, where you just do the scene. You have to memorize the scene. You have to perform it with other actors. Do the scene as if you're in a TV show, but the stage is bare minimum. And, just do it as if you're in a movie, and they just capture everything. But that also feels like just normal acting. So it's kind of hard to. I don't know if there's a difference between.
I would say that everything you just said, it can oftentimes. I've done all the mediums like theater and TV and film, but with voice acting, just to pick something like a JRPG, like a role-playing game that was originally done in Japanese, you could be doing everything from a bit of facial capture if they're going to start, changing the mouth flaps to look like it's coming from an English speaker. You could be doing the mocap potentially. You could be dubbing to animatics pictures. You could be doing kind of the ADR where you have to match not only kind of the lines but also get in a specific time frame. So sometimes you only have a few frames or a second, you have to have your line come out within that same time frame. So in my opinion, I think voice acting can be the most technically complex version of acting because there's all of these parameters you have to put your authentic, truthful performance into. So it's yes, acting is acting, but it's here's all of these kind of handicaps in a way that you have to incorporate into getting that more organic performance, and it can be tough. And also then the green screen and stuff, you have to imagine everything in front of you, and that has its own challenges. So, and we don't get scene partners a lot of the time, so a lot of self-generated.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I think for me, at least in the volume, which is the word for the studio where we do performance capture, the biggest similarity is with, I always say it's like the final run in a rehearsal room for a play. In a theatre project, because you have things that resemble items that are supposed to be there, but they don't actually look like they are. So the acting is very filmic in as much as you don't have to project beyond the person that needs to hear you. But the leap of imagination is necessary, right? To say that this swinging bit of scaffolding is the door to a Hummer, and you have to step into it and not just walk through it. But I think going back to your original question about the newness of great acting in video games, I think it's important to note that the driving force behind that is incredible writing. And what's happened is that the studios and companies that make these games have invested a lot of money in great writers. These, when you know, the things that I've done have all been in LA, and the same people oftentimes that do the video game that you're doing are also, you know, Hollywood screenwriters who have written feature films and TV shows, and it makes our job that much easier because the characters, instead of just fulfilling some kind of property for the game, there is a depth to the characters and a relationship with the other characters, and which makes it more fun to do, but it also makes it a deeper connection for the players too as they go through these stories in the games.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I think about, you know, video game acting too, something that is kind of interesting. I feel like for an anime, you kind of have a base because it's come out in Japan, and you truly don't get to see the end product until it's all done for, I guess, most of these things. But I feel like in video games, you know, there's multiple routes that a character can take within a video game. It's like you could take a right and do something, you could take a left and do something. Was it challenging kind of seeing the vision of that scene at the time? It's kind of like if the character goes right, you're gonna do this, but if the character goes left, you're gonna do this. So you're gonna act 4 different things right here, right now. What was kind of the challenges, if there was, for, you know, are there differences, I guess, when it comes to video games in particular?
Well, I think you have to have this kind of mental flexibility in those moments. You know, it would be easy to have an attitude of, well, hang on a second, I'm still doing the last thing you told me. But of course, that's not how it goes, and you know the deal going into it. Once you free yourself to be kind of pliable in the video game acting world, it becomes a lot more fun, don't you think?
I would say so. I mean, there's very limited rehearsal in video games, if any. I don't know if anyone's had experience with rehearsal, and we don't usually get to see scripts beforehand. So, like, an acting technique that you could assimilate that to is like your cold reading technique. Your cold reading skills, being able to see something and then in 5 seconds understand what that line means and how you're going to best portray that as truthfully as possible. And I think there's a lot of games where it's like that choose your own adventure type of thing, and it could be one thing like, oh man, this makes me really happy, to fuck you, I'm not, excuse me, sorry guys, but you know, I'm not doing that or whatever that is. So like, you have to have ways to tap into those emotions as quickly as you can, and it just, I think a lot of times now, with what you were saying, video game voice acting, they're looking for really high quality performers who can tap into those vulnerable states. Because there's just so much dialogue and they're trying to do things really, really fast. So they don't have time for you to sit, like, when I was in acting school, I went to this conservatory where we studied Meisner technique, and you'd go into a hallway and you would prepare. You'd start thinking about things and getting into an emotional state, and it could take you 5 to 10 minutes sometimes to do that. There is no time for you to get into an emotional state. It's like, all right, here's the line, listen to the Japanese if that's what that is, and go. And you gotta be ready to do that, and it can be difficult, so.
Yeah, just to finish all that off, I think dubbing and video game voiceover acting is the hardest because there's very little time to prepare, and they don't, you know, and to answer your question, you just gotta trust the director and the producers that they know what they're doing and they have the right performance. Because, yeah, you don't know how it's gonna be, what the end product is. And I realized that, like, within the same game, I think performance capture for me is more satisfying because you get to prepare and you think about the characters and then you do the thing. It's like you feel good. And you go in the voiceover booth and it's the same character, so you have an idea of the character, but a lot of times you don't get to prepare. You just say the lines. Like, I don't know what's happening, but okay, I'm gonna fully commit, and you do it, and they're like, great. And I don't feel satisfied, but they're happy, so it's like, I guess it's good. I hope it's good. Do animations that's not dubbed, do they give the script ahead of time? Do you have time to prepare?
Yeah, I was curious about the script. Like, is there a reason that you are unscripted going in, or why do they?
The animation I've done, there's a script.
In animation, for sure, you can. Oftentimes I've gotten the scripts, maybe even some multiple ones in a head, or you get to have creative discussions, read-throughs, like that's more common. But I think in video games specifically, a lot of companies, and I think for good reason, they're worried about leaks and all that stuff. So they're very cautious about sending that stuff or giving people the access to allowing that to happen at all. Because a lot goes into the marketing of these games, and if one thing happens that ruins their whole campaign, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. So I think it's just another liability.
I would just like to say, I don't know a single leak that's ever been made by an actor, just for the record. In my experience, which might be limited, who knows?
Right.
Let's change that today. I'm gonna be in.
This panel is called Breaking the NDA.
Everyone sign the friend DA right now.
I mean, like a
You've
script.
heard the friend DA.
Yeah.
I sign all the time.
I'm going to be in a project is different. I'm talking about having a script that's supposed to be secret and then an actor somehow putting it into the world. I've never heard of it.
No.
But they do protect against it just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing which I think is kind of interesting to know is that when it comes to the video game world specifically, actors love to collaborate. They love to have ideas that are then accepted and used and committed to. It doesn't always happen. But in the video game world, there's a really good reason why it doesn't happen most of the time. And it's because hundreds of people have designed this moment that you are now stepping into. So part of your job is to understand what they've created. We have a thing called a previs that we often see, which is a version, a kind of rudimentary, like the stick figure kind of, better than that, but the idea is that you get to see what they're planning for the scene, and then that kind of dictates oftentimes what you're going to do. I find that actually quite freeing. I don't need to think about where I'm going, I just need to come up with the reason why. And usually it's that they've already figured that out for you too. What that means is that you can just be in the moment and play with the other actors that are there, and I find that quite fun. I also like the other way too, but in video games, something kind of cool about it. It's a lot of pressure off you to come up with the ideas all the time.
In video games, do you build that kind of like relationship that you do, that I've noticed maybe in some other things like anime or live action, where your castmates or your friends or your close people in the actual show or whatever, you kind of build that relationship with them because you're constantly working with them. Is that a thing in video games? I mean, I feel like, in a lot of like first person things, or, you don't really have like a strong relationship with another character sometimes, but do you get to work with other cast members? Like, do you build that kind of relationship with another character that's present in the video game as well?
Yeah, for Ghost of Tsushima, they preferred to have the other actors in the same booth whenever they could, and that doesn't happen very often. You're just alone in the booth. So I got to meet and work with a lot of the actors in the game, and Earl T. Kim, who plays Norio in Ghost of Tsushima, we're like stream partners now on Twitch. So we would, stream. So we've been doing that for a while. And I still text the director of Ghost of Tsushima. We worked on that game for several years, so I feel fine to be like, hey, can I get a code for the sequel? And they say, like, sure, fine.
But don't you find as well, like when you're I think there's perhaps a misconception that because you're just doing voice acting, that it's just your voice. But there's no real way to do a performance in a booth without being all in physically. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're not utilizing your whole instrument, your body, then that creates a very rigid performance. There's so much nuance.
You can hear it, can't you?
Absolutely, and you can hear when someone is stiff. Like, you can hear the people. I get in trouble a lot for like, I'm what I coined this myself with engineers. I call myself a croucher because the more intense I get, the lower and wider my stance gets in terms of, and they're like, you're way off mic now, Paul. It's
The
like,
stand doesn't go that down that
yes,
far.
exactly. I'm already short enough as it is. It's like, come on, Paul, work with us here.
Like, dude's powering up, like, let him do his thing.
Yeah, that too. I mean, that's a whole other set of skills. Screaming.
Yeah, for Ghost, I liked having my sword. It's a plastic, so it's light, and they kept bringing it back because they thought it just kind of became part of my character, and it does like kind of put that one thing that kind of puts you in the mood of the character, But the trick is, and you all know this, like as you move around, you just gotta make sure that you don't make any sound. guys, stuff doesn't hit, but that's the trick of the trade.
That's fair.
There's certain studios too, I've done this quite a few times, where they have a cap that has two like lavalier mics on the headpiece. And then sometimes they'll have a shotgun mic also rigged, and then they have your condenser mic right there, and then they might lob you here as well. So they're trying, depending on the production, they might have various different ways of miking you in the event that something is not clean in whatever you're doing.
Bless you.
So also curiously, like, you know, I've talked to voice actors where they've voiced, 20 characters. I've also talked to some that like really like to stick with just one. What is your guys' preference and kind of the reason why you like to, if you just stick with one character, go back to the same franchise, or do you guys like to branch out and kind of try new things?
I like jobs. And usually if I'm offered one, I say yes. I personally am not choosing to go in one direction or another. It's a case by case.
That's fair.
Situation. Yeah. So the character and the story and everything else will dictate what it needs, and then I'll process that and figure it out.
That's fair.
From that, as opposed to like coming to it with an idea of how I want a voice to sound or something.
I figured, you take what you get kind of a thing, but I just was wondering if there's like a preference, like sticking to like kind of just a franchise. There's some people that are, like the voice in Naruto, she kind of just does Naruto. So stuff like that, is an example.
I think we all are auditioning constantly in voiceover. It's a little bit different where I think primarily in the on-camera world where someone creates kind of a currency with their name and then they don't have to do that as much. It's more of an offer-based thing.
That's fair.
I really think that voice acting in the world of acting is to a certain extent a meritocracy in terms of they're listening to these auditions and they're casting the great performance that they believe can play the character. Now, when you make a relationship with certain castings or studios, they might be more preferential to say, hey, we know this person, let's bring them in, they'd be right for this. So that does happen, but ultimately I think it's very rare to find like in VO, because the pay scale is not nearly equivalent to what is in the on-camera world, where that is going to satisfy you to just be able to be like, yeah, I'm only okay with this one character.
Yeah.
I get a lot of the Japanese stoic, samurai, because I am Japanese, and I get, but I appreciate it when I do get to play a character that's different from that. But at the same time, really, it's just all about I'd like jobs.
Yep.
And I would like more jobs. So if it's more samurai stuff, great, I'll do that. But yeah, along the way, preferably I get to do a lot of different things.
Switch it up.
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking vocally, right? You're talking about a vocal sound in an actor or something, right?
Yeah, I just meant like, like if money aside preference, like would you, like if you just got paid the same, would you rather stick with just one character, kind of,
No, the opposite for me.
You'd like to have
Variation always.
Yeah.
Three people sitting here, and I would argue for all of the people down there, there's, we only have one instrument in our body, but it's very versatile. And depending on placement and whatever else, you can sound a million different ways, even just as you. And I think the most satisfying thing for actors is to be able to explore all of the different things that you're able to do. And so I think more is more. And
I like that. Yeah.
It's one of the only mediums where how you look does not dictate what you can play to a certain extent. You can play a dragon. I don't think any of us here are dragons, but you have that capability, or a goblin, or a troll. So I think if you have the ability within your skill set to do that, that's like, why not? It's so fun to play those monsters and creatures.
I had a question with playing. I guess you guys as well, but more Japanese samurai type characters. I think the video game community is extremely good at dissecting how characters like move and operate, and it's just kind of like, how did you do a certain thing? Were you being trained by Like how did your like training go? I mean, you probably had like Navy or SEAL people, or kind of training you guys. Like, what did that training kind of look like going into acting? No way.
was my friend. Yeah, I know. You think that like you
have a samurai. You don't have a samurai in the studio with you?
Yeah, getting a lead in something big, like you think that they like support you with classes and stuff. No, I was all kind of on my own, but I did buy my own sword, not sharp, and there was an Iaido class, a teacher that I knew, so I took some classes, but nothing extensive, and the rest were YouTube, and I did practice, but it, at least in video game and the scenes that we did, like a lot of it didn't involve a lot of the fighting, so I think that's partially why. But yeah, I didn't get any training. Did you get any?
On Call of Duty, there's 2 ex-SEAL team members
Jealous.
who have been involved in some very intense things. But I think to your point is that it's because we're moving around all the time, supposedly looking like professional soldiers.
Right.
But when it does come to the combat, often that's when the stunt guys step in and they know what they're doing. So, but I like just kind of because the kind of everyday nuts and bolts of what we're doing is like you have to hold a gun correctly. It can create problems for them later on if the kind of just the way the equipment's sitting on you is wrong, then they have to fix it all, and it's a lot more work. So it's better that it's right going in. Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Well, we've got about 15 minutes left. I would love to potentially open it up to some fan questions, if you guys are okay with that.
Let's do it.
I don't want to leave any fan questions unturned. So does anyone have any questions? I think, there was a mic out there somewhere, is there not now?
We can.
I can always pass you one, or you guys can yell.
But spare one.
Yeah. Does anyone have a question out there they'd like to ask? Yes, absolutely.
So, I guess this one's for Jin Sakai. So what was it like seeing Ghost of Tsushima explode in popularity the way it did?
This was during the pandemic, and I was nervous coming, when it first came out, but I am very glad that it went over well, because it could go either way. But I was just happy.
It's my favorite single player game, by the way. I think that the fucking graphics are amazing on that shit.
Oh,
Amen.
Right. Yes, that was all me. Yeah.
Well, any chance we'll see you in the upcoming sequel?
Sorry, I wish I was.
Yes.
So besides video games and animation, that kind of thing, do you all go into other sectors of voice acting, like medical explainer, commercial, that kind of thing too? Or do you just avoid that completely because it reads different? Or jobs and you're going for those two?
I mean, commercials, if you can get them, are some of the highest paying jobs in video, and I do that. I audition all day, every day. It's even more competitive than you can imagine, even more so than video games, because there are certain things too from like a casting perspective where certain casting directors, they will specifically go to voiceover agents, right? And then there's other sets of jobs that go to like on-camera agencies as well too. So like those commercials, so many of those commercials, they're like celebrity prototypes, must have improv training. So they cast a huge net to find what they want. And I will audition for those whenever I can.
And often don't know what they want.
I choose to ignore everything they say and say, this is what I do, and take it or leave it.
They ask for the conversational read.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
You have a question there, buddy? Yeah.
For Daisuke. I love the game. When I saw you were coming here, I hadn't finished it, and I ran to finish it because I was like, I can't come here without finishing it.
Oh, good.
Beautiful. It made me cry at the end. You did a very great performance. I had 2 things. One, how did it feel to get into the character of Jin? To be more specific on that question, I'd say because you did such a great job, especially on the whole part of honor and how he had to sacrifice that to save the people he loved, which was amazing to me. I don't know, the way you portrayed that, it was just so realistic. How was it doing that for you?
I think it's just, I think it's just scene by, I'm not really thinking about the macro, I'm just thinking about the scenes themselves, So, because we don't really go in order, we just go, whenever the scenes are written kind of thing. The last day was probably some of the last scenes in the game, but it's all out of order, so whatever the scene is, we just focus on that. So I wasn't really thinking about honor as I'm doing it, but in the final product, yes, I'm sure that's what came across.
That's amazing because I'm thinking of that. I feel like that's harder because you're just doing the scene itself, and it felt flawless. It felt like you guys had the whole script, you knew the character you were portraying.
Right.
But that makes me appreciate it more because. To me, that seems harder.
Yeah.
The fact that you're just given a script, you're supposed to say it with the emotion they expect you to, and it felt also flawless and fluid. And two, it's just a personal request. One of my favorite lines of his was at the end when his uncle was telling him, you have no honor, and he's like, and you're a slave to it. Do you mind? Could you recreate that? I don't know. It's too much.
Just the line?
But exactly as you did it.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody else has to say the other.
Bring out the sword.
Just go and get his sword.
I'll do it.
I know what it was the line when he's like, right when he's, spoilers to the game, no one's played it. Before I say something, because it's the ending, so cover your ears. When he says to him, when he's sent to kill him, and he's like, you have no honor, but then Jim says to him, you're a slave to it. Could you say that line?
Which one? You're a slave to it?
Yeah, he's like, you're a slave.
You're a slave to it.
What are your lines?
I need a line.
What's your catchphrase? What's the most spoiler full?
Give me your final line. Give me your final line. And,
it was you all along.
I killed my whole family. I don't know if I have any.
I hate being put on. Do you like being put on the spot? Not to put you on the spot.
I think it's different when it's like an emotional thing or it requires like if it's just a fun thing, then it's very different.
Give me a fun one.
Does anyone know about this game called Cookie Run Kingdom? So I voiced an obnoxious little cookie, and he's like, I'm the master of survival in the land of the beasties. So that's obnoxious, so that's fun. But that's different about saying, you killed everybody, you murdered my family, and I am going to avenge you all. And that's a way different request, so, yeah.
Stay frosty.
The whole time I'm like, man, but at the same time I kind of want to hear it. I'm like, is this one of those moments where I'm supposed to like interject and kind of move the thing on? But I'm like, I kind of want to hear that too.
Just let it happen.
I might just have to let it happen. I think Yellow Guy had a.
I was wondering if you had your own favorite video game or anime if you don't play.
Ghost of Tsushima for me. It's actually a good game, so.
Picking a favorite game would be hard, but I'd say like top 4 are Suikoden 2, which is a JRPG, Ocarina of Time, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 7.
Original or remastered?
I'm in the remake, which is pretty cool, but the OG was. I voiced the Chocobo Rancher, Chocobo Billy.
Mine's going to be really disappointing. I obviously think that the Call of Duty is really amazing. But mine are old school. I still love GoldenEye. And then this has nothing to do with this convention, but I'm a huge FIFA fan. The soccer game, because I'm from England. So, respect to all these other games that I know nothing about. But yeah, that's me. That's the honest answer.
That's fair.
So do you play Call of Duty?
What, do I? No, I'm awful at it. No. I tell you what I do. I like watching streams of people who are really good. Because then you get to see the game as it was designed, and then all of the cutscenes actually make sense, I
actually had that question before. It's like, okay, so if you're in an anime or something, you can just go to your episode, go to your line, and just see how you performed. You know, how do you just watch a streamer play through your game to kind of get your entire acting experience, or
I do.
You do? Okay.
Do you mean afterwards or
Yeah,
before?
it's like, dang, I wanted to see how my character played out, but you would have
That's
to
the only way.
beat the
That's
game.
the only way you know.
Yeah, or
I have to
YouTube.
watch someone else.
Really?
I just played through mine.
You just played through it? Yeah. See that? Okay,
Like
that's the
day
answer.
one that it came out, and I streamed it. So streaming it is different because you feel like you're performing for an audience. So it was a different
You're like acting
experience,
twice,
but-
kind of. Yeah, it's like
kind of.
That's kind of
reacting to the But
amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, you got a question there?
Yeah, okay. So you mentioned before that sometimes they'll also capture your face while you're voice acting. If your character has a mask, does that make a difference, or does it like feel about the same?
You don't wear any of the thing that's in the game. So yeah, you weren't. I wasn't wearing a mask. It was just the camera. That's
Did they use your eyes?
Yes.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
yes. So at first we tried doing it without memorizing, but they tracked my eyes, so it looks like I was reading. So I had to memorize the lines whenever I had a camera in front of my face. So yeah. So that felt like the actual acting in the voiceover booth.
Yeah, the mask. As you say, like the mask is layered on afterwards. So there's no kind of like, well, I don't need to work as hard. Like you have to do assume that everything's being seen, and that way it'll come through the eyes too.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah, I'll do the guy right behind you there. Yeah.
Samuel, since you're a FIFA fan, who are you rooting for in the next World Cup?
England.
I don't think he's allowed to say any other country.
Well, I mean, and America.
Who do you think?
But how do I think will win it?
Yeah.
I think France has a really good chance. I mean, always Spain. I'd like to say England, but I mean, it's been since 1966. It's not happened, and every 4 years we get our hopes up, and every 4 years we have our dreams crushed. So I'm just not gonna. I'm done holding out hope anymore.
You had a question right here?
In your experiences, which has been harder? Doing something more towards originality or following up as a dub?
A dub is much harder for me all the time. Mainly because you have very little time to prepare and matching of the mouth and all of that. And yeah, matching another person's performance, but you want to make it your own, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I would say the dubs are always harder. Sometimes they can add their own layer of, when I did the new Dragon Ball series where I voiced like a mini version of Vegeta. So I had to not only listen to the Japanese and take inspiration from that, but I also had to try and incorporate the adult performance of Chris Sabat at the same time. So it's like you're hearing something and you're also kind of ignoring it to a certain degree because you're trying to retain the through line, because it wasn't just like I'm the only one. They go from big to small. So that was a challenge within itself too. So it can be very technical, these dubs, for many different reasons.
Did that pressure get to you? Kind of like, I mean, Chris is one of the goats of voice acting. Were you like, I have a little bit of a legacy to follow? Or were you kind of like, I got this role for a reason, I'm just gonna do my thing?
God, I wish that was how I thought, man. Thankfully, we shared the same agent, and when I got it, I was able to like reach out and say, hey, can I talk to Chris about this, get his blessing? And the first thing he said to me was like, how dare you take my role? And he's like, fuck you. Yeah, sorry. And I was like, whoa, dude. I was like, and I called my agent, I'm like, I don't think he wants me to do this. Recast it. And then like 10 minutes later, he texted me, he goes, I was just kidding. He goes, normally if I knew you, I'd let that sit for weeks. But he's like, I don't really know you yet, so I had to like cave. So he's amazing, he's the coolest guy, and he's been very kind. But yes, the pressure was insurmountable. I mean, the legacy franchise and beloved character. I still don't even believe I was, yeah.
Same with Ghost. I mean, you came into a franchise and a character that's already been solidified. Was there?
Yeah, although it never really felt like I I mean, I was aware, obviously, that there's a following of this character, but it was written in a new way. It was made more human than he's ever been, and so I didn't really look back and go, well, I have to kind of. I'd already accidentally passed those tests auditioning for the job, and I didn't really think about it again. I was just I was treating it like a brand new character and a brand new job, and I'd been told that it had never been scripted, you know, in this way before, so I didn't really feel the pressure when I was doing it. Afterwards, when it came out and I realized how big this thing was, I was like, oh, it's good that I wasn't thinking about that at the time, because I might have been a little bit more anxious, but it was happily the right way around. So.
Yeah, well, that's probably good. Yeah, I always thought, you know, it's like the person who had to voice like Zelda for the first time. You know, it's like, man, she hasn't had a voice for decades, and it's kind of like, ooh, you got like the character now she has a voice. Like the pressure must have been insane. So that's probably kind of a good thing that you just kind of went in blind.
I've never had to do what you're talking about. I've never had to do dubbing or anything. I think that's a really, really difficult job sometimes. Like I would imagine having to like match something that you didn't, like finding out and not knowing where that sits in your voice it's a hard thing to pitch, right?
I've had some pretty cool directors where the standard is you listen to the original language, which is oftentimes Japanese, and then you record based on that. I've had some clients that have said, we're not going to listen to the Japanese. We want you to just do what feels right, but that's all dependent on the timing restrictions that they have. If they're looser, you have that, but if there's not, like when I did Final Fantasy, a standard thing is usually like a second or two over. They had like 12 frames, so you had to really match the cadence to you know, and then all the credit goes to these localizers, because they have to hear it a little bit and translate it in a way that matches the Japanese, and it's not a one-to-one language, so it can be pretty difficult to do that at times.
Do you have a preference? Like, do you want to match like the Japanese when you're doing Vegeta?
Oh, for Vegeta? Well, it's different, I think, for each character or whatever, but like, it can be helpful at times, depending on the character, and it can be a real kind of, I think sometimes too, the language of Japanese has different emotionality than what is a grounded American performance or like an English-speaking performance. So sometimes if you hear a Japanese performer, it might be more animated or what we believe to be more animated. Yeah. So we can fall into kind of doing an impersonation of that, and that's oftentimes not what the client is looking for. They're looking for you to just kind of take inspiration from it, but do your own thing. So, yeah.
Very cool. Any last questions out there? We can probably answer a couple of these. We'll go with you here on the corner.
Hold on, wait. Have any of you ever like had a character that you've played where you didn't know the end of the game, and whenever you finally saw it, you were like, "Oh my god!" Like,
what's the oh my god?
Okay, like you didn't know the ending to the game that you were in, and seeing it for the first time, how did you feel?
I mean, there are many games where we play very little roles in it. Like Death Stranding would be the perfect example. I did a little bit. I have no idea what was happening in that game. Even I was recording, I was like, what's happening? Like what? There's like the deliveries, and they're happy or sad or angry that the delivery came in but the story, ending of that story, I still don't know what the heck happened. But we'll find out in the sequel soon.
I don't know about like seeing a game. I mean, usually by the time they come out, we know everything. But this is not the first time I've spoken about this, but when, spoiler, if you haven't played the Modern Warfare games, but when Soap died, oh God, somebody didn't know, did they? But when that happened, we didn't know until the day we shot it. So in terms of doing it, it was very much a shock to everybody. on the day that we did it, which of course was deliberate, and then we did like the memorial scene that day, and it was all very fresh, and we were losing an actual friend from the job, and so there was something very sentimental about that. And I would say that was, it's not quite what you were asking, but that's as close as I can come to it, I think.
I would say it was Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I had a lot of stuff and like side quests and story, but I didn't know with the remake the different creative choices they were taking, and I guess spoiler alert here, if you haven't played Remake, the Aerith stuff, nobody really knew what they were going to do with that, or kind of even how like the Whispers were going to play into that, so that was when I played the game eventually, I was like, whoa, I did not know they were doing that, so it's surprising.
Yeah, I was just given the, we have to wrap it up, so I think, we've come to a close here. I don't think we can take any more questions. However, I think you would like to give a last little comment before we wrap up?
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that there is a SAG-AFTRA video game actors strike going. It's been going for about a year. I don't know what you know about it. There's a lot of kind of misinformation, disinformation. There's a contract that's being negotiated. Actors are told what that contract is, and then we get to choose whether we vote yes for it or no for it. We don't get to choose what's in it. The things that are being fought over now are protections against AI replicas of actors. And in many ways, that train has left the station, and in many ways, there will never be enough protections for it. That's not what I want to talk about today. That contract will get figured out however it gets figured out. Eventually, the union will say yes to it, and everybody will go back to work. But working backwards from where we are right now today, you are here at this convention to meet real human being actors. You have a community because of the work of real human being actors. Now, maybe you don't mind whether that stops happening and you'll have just as much fun playing a game when, if it happens, it becomes digital replicas of human beings. And I'm not here to tell you that that's wrong. That's okay. If that's cool with you, that's okay. But if, on the other hand, you think it is important, and you think it has had a significant impact on you, I would ask you to do something. I would ask you to reach out to the studios and the video game production companies and not moan at them, but give them a compliment. Tell them how much it's meant to you that these actors' performances that came from real human beings have impacted you in whatever way is personal to you. They are listening, they are watching, they are connected to their social media accounts, they are connected to their communications teams. It's important. And I can only speak from my personal experience, and forgive me if you came to the panel yesterday when I said this, I'm going to say it again. But in my experience, when you take human beings out of the human experience suffers as a result. So if you can, reach out, give them a compliment, tell them why you love what we do.
Thank you! Amazing, guys. Thank you so much. You guys going to be at your booths for the rest of the weekend?
Yeah.
All right.
Can't wait for it. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, you guys mind if we take a quick picture?